You are listening to the Keep the Weight Off podcast with Dr. Angela, episode number 79.
Welcome to the Keep the Weight Off podcast, where we bust all the dieting myths and discover not just how to lose weight, but more importantly, how to keep it off. We go way beyond the food, and we use science and psychology to give you strategies that work. And now your host, Dr. Angela Zechmann.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the podcast this week. This week and the next 2 weeks, I have a very special guest. Her name is Cassie Becker, and we sat down recently to talk about her weight loss journey. Now, when she started her journey with me, it was December of 2008. She was 32 years old, and she weighed 340 pounds. Her highest weight, to the best of her knowledge, was 350 pounds and possibly more. So she lost the first 100 pounds with my help, and then the other 75 pounds of it came off later. It was a dramatic transformation that occurred over the course of many years, and Cassie learned so much about herself along the way. So I asked her to share her journey with you, my podcast listeners, and I was thrilled when she said yes. So the interview was an hour and a half long. So what I've done is I've broken it up into 3 parts, which I'll be releasing over the next 3 weeks. So we did a video interview. And so I want to recommend that you go over to the Dr. Angela Zechmann channel on YouTube and watch the interview, because I do show photos of her along her journey, and pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? And while you're over on YouTube, make sure to like and share the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will be very grateful for that. So if I could sum up Cassie's journey, I would say that Cassie had 3 major realizations along the path. The journey was not a linear journey by any means, but the first realization that she had was that this struggle that she was having was more than just a struggle with her weight, and that her physical body was actually beginning to show signs and symptoms of the complications of the disease of obesity. And that's what led her to seek medical treatment. The second realization was that she needed to address the emotional aspects of this journey. And we talk about that for the most part in part 2. And then in part 3, we talk about her realization that she was actually suffering from a drug addiction, and that she needed to address that sugar and flour are actually addictive drugs, and her behavior with food mimicked the behavior of other people who struggle with addiction, and what that meant for her in terms of her long-term success at keeping the weight off. It's a fascinating interview, and we both hope that as you listen to Cassie's experience, you'll discover that there is hope and that you're not alone in your struggles. So this first part 1 of our interview, Cassie talks about the struggles that she had as a child, as the only one of the 4 children in her family who struggled with their weight, and how her weight was affecting her both physically and psychologically, and just what led her to seek medical treatment. So without further ado, here is part 1 of my interview with Cassie Becker. So welcome everyone to our podcast today. I have a very special guest. I am so excited that she said yes to this. I have with us today Cassie Becker. I almost said Willis, but I meant Cassie Becker. And Cassie is here to talk about her weight loss journey. And I just wanted to introduce you to Cassie because I first met Cassie in 2000. I met her long before that, but I met her for the first time in 2008. as a client. And she came in and she was like, I really want to get this under control. And we worked together for a couple of years. She has gone on to lose a massive amount of weight. And I wanted all of you to hear from her exactly how she did it and exactly what it takes to lose weight and keep it off. Because you've kept it off for how long now, Cassie, would you say?
Probably when the whole amount, probably about 4 or 5 years, I
4 or
would
5 years.
say.
So that is a massive success. You kept the first 75 or 50 pounds off for many years, and then the rest of it came. Why don't you just tell us how all of this happened for you? Like, tell us a little
Okay.
bit about your weight loss journey.
Okay. So I think history is important in this.
Yes.
A lot of people gain their weight in their adulthood,
Mm.
and I definitely didn't. I remember my first diet program at age 6, going to Chalk Hospital in Orange County. I am the third of 4 children, and it was only me that had any weight issues. And so my mom was terrified that there was something like clinically wrong that she needed to address.
Okay.
And so thyroid tests and, all of these things, everything came back fine. And so she was like, okay, well, we need to get this handled. So Chalk Hospital at 6 years old, we talked about, at that point, the pyramid was all the rage. It still is, right?
The pyramid.
You
Oh,
know,
the
the
food pyramid. The
the
food.
nutrition pyramid.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So we
So
talked
is
all
Chalk is just so that I know, is Chalk a children's hospital in of Orange
yeah,
County, maybe?
Children's Hospital of Orange County.
Got it. Okay.
So anyway, so went to that nutritionist several times, talking to just about basics, about fruits and vegetables, about, that sort of thing. Around 8 years old, my mom got me into, just a general therapist, just to look at the whole mental side of life because I was still heavy. I'm in 5th grade. I remember being put in front of the class, during all the presidential fitness testing back then,
Oh yeah.
where we had to get weighed. And in 5th grade, I weighed 141 pounds,
Mhm.
and that was on display in front of my entire
Oh,
class.
oh.
And it was a devastating moment in my life.
Mhm.
Um, but that just kept going when we moved to Washington when I was 12 years old. I was in 7th grade, and in 8th grade, my best friend and I did Weight Watchers for the first time. I
Mhm.
remember my first weigh-in was 219 pounds,
Mhm.
and Weight Watchers didn't do anything for me. It was the rah rah sis boom bah
Mhm.
isn't what speaks to me.
Yeah.
Um, And so, it was something to do with my friend, and everything that I ever tried was always welcome with my mom, and she would support everything that I wanted to do.
Mhm.
Um, then in through high school, I started seeing a nutritionist. I lost about 50 pounds over the summer of freshman and sophomore year. All of a sudden, people looked at me and noticed me.
Mhm.
And it's just that whole, you have to be thin to be okay. You have to be thin to be accepted. And so I fell into that, and life was great for a hot minute. And weight gain happens when you get comfortable.
Mhm.
And so by senior year, I was back to, you know, 220 ish. Um, After high school, lots of different programs, plans, herbal weight loss, everything. Whatever my mom found was the newest, latest, greatest.
Mhm.
Uh, she would get me hooked up on.
Mhm.
Back in the day, fen was a big thing. I did
Mhm.
that for a period period of time, of course you have success for a little bit. But the
Mhm.
minute you stop it, that success
Yeah.
turns into just another yo-yo.
Yeah.
Um, Went off to college, had some pretty severe trauma there, came home pretty broken,
Mm.
um, and got married the first time. And it was my mission at that point to kind of put it in people's face that I didn't need. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional. I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, it's normal.
I was going to prove to everyone that it didn't matter how big I was, that I was capable and strong, independent, and I could do whatever I wanted to do,
Mhm.
regardless of what people saw. I
Mhm.
and I was very successful at that. I
Mhm.
proved people wrong all of the time. They would have a judgment on me, and I would just blow it out of the water.
Yeah.
And so it was my mission to be, I don't know, powerful, even big.
Mhm.
Um,
You say, can I ask you a question here? Would you say that the fact that you were large just sort of permeated everything that you were doing? I mean, was it you ever
everything.
like forget about it? You know?
Yes, I didn't. I felt like I was a stranger in my own body. That's the best way to put it. I felt like have there is this image that has gone around over the years of this statue where this woman with a thin upper body is chiseling away at this fat down around the mid range, and it's like she's breaking out of this fat suit essentially.
Mhm.
And for many many years that's how I felt, because even at my heaviest, I mean, the heaviest recorded weight was 350. I know I was heavier than that
Yeah.
at a period of time.
Yeah.
The
I just
so
show
the,
our audience for a second what 350 looked like for you. So we have a picture here on the left of Cassie shortly before I met her, actually, when she was 350. And then the next picture over was her first picture from our clinic, and that was she was at 339. So you had lost some before you came in to see me. So yeah, so just so you guys can kind of see, like, and I remember when I first met you, you were a massage therapist,
yeah,
and
and
I wondered how, like, I mean, you were amazing as a massage therapist. You actually taught couples massage because my husband at the time and I took a couples massage class, and you were the teacher. And
yeah,
I was just like, I was absolutely amazed at how vibrant you were and how easy it felt for you to move in your body. And like you were incredible.
thank you. I worked hard at that
Yeah.
because I didn't want. I'll tell you what, and I don't want anybody to feel badly if they hear this about who I'm or about what I'm going to talk about. Well, I interviewed at the Valley.
The Valley is the health club that you were a massage therapist at that I was a member of. Yeah.
Yes. So when I interviewed with them, they didn't want to hire me.
Oh, really?
They didn't want to hire me because I was too big,
Mm-hmm.
and they worried about their image. And
Mm-hmm.
my direct supervisor fought for me and and got me hired.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to me 6 months after and said, "We are so sorry that we made that judgment on you. You have proved us wrong in so many ways."
Well, that's incredible.
So, I mean, again, that was my mission, to completely eclipse what anybody thought
Mm-hmm.
that could limit me doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, So, what brought me to come see you? I've always been the healthiest fat person on the earth. I mean, I came to see you when I was 32. We did blood work. I remember, my cholesterol was a little bit up. My blood sugars were perfect. Nothing to comment on there. It
Mhm.
was just obesity
Mhm.
was this thing. And the reason why I came to you is not long before that, I was diagnosed with sleep apnea.
Mm.
And at 32, I earned myself a CPAP machine.
Mhm.
And that was the first piece of evidence that that I'm, not, what is the word? I'm not avoiding some of the pitfalls that other people have
Mm.
with obesity. That was the first, like, holy cow, what? I have to wear this? I'm 32.
Ooh, okay. I see what you mean. So you were
Yeah,
you were thinking, okay, so I'm struggling with my weight, but I don't have any of these other complications like diabetes or blood pressure issues or
right.
cholesterol issues or anything like that. And then you got diagnosed with the sleep apnea, and that was like a shift in your brain. Oh, ooh,
Right. It was
yeah.
it was
Okay,
the
I got it.
first comorbidity
Mm,
that is often accompanying obesity, and it was directly related to my weight. Some people have obstructive sleep apnea for many other reasons.
mhm,
This was 100% weight related.
mhm,
Um, and so I started working with you, and um, I want to say the only drug intervention that you helped or that you prescribed to me was the phentermine.
mhm. Yeah.
And that was, I want to describe what that was like, because I think people need to understand how diet and weight loss medications can work and
Mhm,
how they absolutely will not work.
mhm.
Not magic.
Yeah, they're not.
So when you have cravings and hunger, it's like a bright light. And phentermine was the dimmer switch.
Mm.
That is the best way that I can describe it. The decisions were still there
Mhm.
on what I was going to put in my mouth. Like I said, it's not a magic pill, but the dimmer switch allowed me to have clarity
Mm.
in those decisions instead of letting the cravings make the decision for me.
Mhm.
And so that was helpful. And just your equation, for the love of Pete, I still know it today.
Ah.
That has stuck with me all of these
Oh,
years.
that's
And
awesome. That's called Rader's formula. I call it Rader's formula because it was taught to me by my mentor, Alan Rader. So, and he just came up with this brilliant idea for how to describe what's going on in your bloodstream when we eat carbs and sugar, and
yeah,
how much stress that can be on our pancreas when we have to produce all the insulin that we have to produce. So, it just
right.
really helps people. It's like a light bulb. So,
It really did. And what it did is it forced me to be very conscious of every single thing that I was putting in my mouth.
mhm,
And at that time, my kids were tiny. They were 4 years old and 7 years old.
mhm.
And they were kind of like, wait, why, mommy? Why can't you have chips with us or popcorn with us
Mhm,
or whatever they were eating? I want cookies. Well, why can't you have one, mom? And essentially what I ended up telling them is the best explanation is mommy's allergic to sugar right now.
mhm,
My body doesn't know how to handle it. And so I'm choosing to support my body. And for some reason that sunk into them, and right, mom can't have that because it's got sugar in it.
mhm.
And even if it was white bread or chips or crackers, they learned how to determine why I couldn't have a certain thing. So that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I
and
remember you telling me that you had come up with that solution. I thought, that's brilliant. Like, yeah, it's like an allergy, because kind of it is, you know?
it is. It is. I mean, when your body doesn't know how to handle something, that's when it gets thrown off. I mean, that's histamine response happens and you get snotty, and same thing. It's
It's
just
a
not its weight.
food allergy kind of thing. So the interesting
Exactly.
thing that is, though, most people struggle with these foods. So it's not just
No,
people who are struggling with their weight that struggle with these foods. Most people, like,
no, you're
eating
absolutely
that
right.
stuff is just really, so yeah. So anyway, so I do want to let me see. I want to show everybody. So this third picture here on this slide. So the middle one is when she first came in. You can see in the third picture, it was a couple of years later, and she was down. She got down 100 pounds with the aid of what we teach, the nutrition ideas that we teach, and the phentermine that she took. And she got down 100 pounds. And then I'm going to just show the graph too. Okay, because we keep graphs. And then she had some weight gain. And why don't you talk a little bit about that? Like, what was going on for you there? And I'm going to go back to,
So,
yeah.
um, that period of time, my dad was very, very ill.
Mhm.
Um, and he was in an induced coma for almost 2 weeks. And
Wow.
I was essentially my mom's right hand. So when she wasn't at the hospital, I was.
Okay.
And because we didn't leave his side, one of us was always there.
Wow.
And then he was in rehab, um, inpatient rehab for several weeks after that. And, again, we tried to be very present for him as much as we could.
Mhm.
Um, and the stress of that caught up with me.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's natural. Stress happens.
Mhm.
And I think that losing focus of oneself
Mhm.
is easy in times of stress.
Yeah.
And
The way I explain it is um most people, when they're in a stressful situation, especially something like that, and you're like dependent on hospital food, like some of the worst stuff out there is hospital
oh,
food, even if you were able to eat perfectly,
the
the
stress.
lack of sleep and
Mhm.
the stress hormones cause your liver to create blood sugar.
Yes.
It's a process called gluconeogenesis. And so your liver is going to make sugar even if your nutrition is perfectly sound, which
Yep.
under those kinds of circumstances, almost, you have to be superhuman to have perfectly sound nutrition under those kinds of circumstances. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
so no surprise there. So
Right. Yeah.
not a least bit surprised that there was some weight gain at that point in time.
Right.
Yeah.
And at that point, so one thing that I think it's important for people to know, and what I really appreciated about your program, is I was so focused on, well, I've got to eat everything perfectly and I've got to work out at the gym for, whatever. And you said, stop, settle down.
Yeah.
You are allowed to think about exercise for probably the first 3 to 6 months
Yeah.
until you dial in your nutrition.
Yeah.
And that was like, do you remember that?
I didn't realize I was saying it that long ago, but I have been saying it for a long time. Like, nutrition
Yeah.
is way more important than exercise. So, yeah.
Yeah. You pretty much had to just give me a chill pill and say, settle down. Because I'm like the all or none, ever ready rabbit. You tell me what I need to do, typically, unless I'm in a stubborn streak,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give it my 100%. And you were like, no, 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 no. We need to do one thing first.
Yeah.
And that was freedom. And that really helped me dial one thing in so that I could be ready for the next thing. So anyway, thank you for that.
Mhm.
And I
You're
think
welcome.
people need to think about that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah,
A
you
little.
can't out exercise a bad diet. And
No.
so dialing in the nutrition, so many people think that, well, as long as I'm working out, I can just eat whatever I want. And that doesn't work. So dialing in that nutrition is the key. And I always say to people now, if you've got an hour and your choice is to go to the gym and spend that hour on the treadmill, or like you would never want to spend an hour on a treadmill anyway, but if your choice is to go to the gym or to spend an hour going grocery shopping and prepping food, and it's one or the other, you need to do the food. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah. Yep.
A very good point.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so back to the timeline. Okay,
Yeah.
so life happened. Dad was ill during that recovery phase is when you know, the weight gain happened. And I think at that point finances became an issue and I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't continue with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I you know, I pretty much kept off about 75 pounds for a good long time, for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that happened right then that was, and I'm going to talk a little bit about mental because that's
Can
a
I
huge.
interject something though, just real quickly here? And that is um, the benefit of a 10% weight loss. So if you were 340 pounds and you dropped even just 34 pounds,
Mhm.
that amount of weight loss, that 10% weight loss, is associated with much better long-term outcomes, less risk of diabetes in the future, less risk of early death, all of that. So
Mhm.
you had lost and kept off 75. So you had lost and kept off 20% of your initial body weight, which in most obesity medicine circles is like stellar, like incredible. So more power to you there. Yeah.
Um, Thank you. And then, so about that time, um, my son decided he wanted to do Taekwondo.
Ah,
And so got him going to Taekwondo. First 3 lessons I watched, I couldn't sit still anymore. I wanted to be out on that floor.
ah,
And so I joined Taekwondo. I was easily, I want to say at that point, I was probably 290
mhm,
when I started Taekwondo. And I don't know how many of your listeners understand martial arts, but there's a lot of mental discipline that comes in with any martial arts training. And that was transformative for me mentally.
mhm.
Um, it took me 4 years to earn my black belt. And about, I would say, a year before I earned my black belt, I was doing, and you're gonna freak out about this. I was doing CrossFit about 6 days a week. No,
Wow.
no, no. CrossFit, I'm sorry, Taekwondo 6 days a week.
Mhm.
CrossFit probably 4 to 5 days a week.
Wow. That's a lot of exercise. Wow.
Way over exercising.
Yeah.
And my body didn't do anything. I was still eating, um, what would I say? I was still conscious of what I was eating. I didn't go off the rails. I was
Mhm.
still being sensible,
Mhm.
but and over exercising, and my body was not cooperating. You would have thought that I would have lost another 50 to 100 pounds
Mhm.
just doing all of those things. Over exercise is not good either.
Exactly.
In fact, I ended up herniating a low back, my
Oh,
L5S1
oh,
during CrossFit, and had to rehab, and that pushed my black belt just a little bit out. anyways, point with that is that changing the mindset is super duper important. There's one experience that stood out as completely transformative to me. It was on a low day, because we all have low days, but I was in the Taekwondo class and I was going through the motions, and I was refusing to look at myself in the mirror because I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. But I liked what I felt when I was moving. So I refused to look in the mirror. And my instructor pulled me aside and said, what is going on? And I said, I can't look in a mirror. And he says, oh, you can't? Guess what you're going to do? And he insisted that if he didn't see my eyes focused on the mirror, that that I wasn't completing what he wanted me to do. And you always, when you're in that circumstance, you want to do what your instructor is telling you to do, because it's a whole mental thing.
Yeah.
And that was very, very difficult to me. And I said, I don't like what I see. And he said to me, when you tell me something like, when you tell me that you're not doing it right, or that you're not worthy of being here, that's insulting to him, because he sees my effort and he sees progress. And so it was this really interesting mental breakthrough.
Wow.
Learning how to accept praise for my efforts. He and my other instructor saw what I was capable of doing at 275 pounds, that no one should really be able to do.
Yeah.
And so they talked a lot about that with me. And most of the time they pulled me aside to do it, so it wasn't in front of anybody, but it was transformative.
Wow.
To be outside of my comfort zone, but nurtured in comfort.
Yeah. Wow.
With accomplishment. So that's the next big thing. After I earned,
congratulations on getting your black belt.
Thank you.
That is incredible. Okay, so this concludes part 1 of my interview with Cassie Becker. Be sure to post any comments or reflections you have and give Cassie some love. Next week, I'll be back with part 2 of the interview, where Cassie talks a lot about the emotional healing she experienced as she was losing the rest of her weight. So that's all for this week, and I will see you all next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Hey, if you really want to lose weight and keep it off for good, your next step is to sign up for Dr. Angela's free weight loss course, where you're going to learn everything you need to get started on your weight loss journey the right way. Just head over to journeybeyondweightloss.com/free course to sign up. Also, it would be awesome if you could take a few moments and write a review on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you in Journey Beyond Weight Loss.